Hello and welcome back to the channel, everybody. I'm super excited about this review as I will be talking about the Voigtlander 28mm color Skopar, which is my only 28mm lens that I own for Leica. I bought this lens as a birthday present to myself pretty much 1.5 years ago, and ever since I've shot almost 1,000 photographs with this lens. I even spent an entire vacation in Morocco only with this lens. In this review, I'm gonna be talking about the pros of the lens, the cons of the lens, just kind of giving you a feel for who this lens is perfect for. And I'll also be showing you a lot of example photographs so you can see what the lens is capable of in terms of sharpness, in terms of depth of field, and just kind of get a feel for the images that this lens is able to create. So let's get started. I also want to say a big thank you and welcome to all of the new viewers. My name is Valentin. I'm an analog photographer based here in Berlin, and I also do YouTube videos in which I'm talking about analog photography, so anything kind of connected to film photography, camera reviews, lens reviews, but also talking about new film stocks, kind of taking you along with me on my analog adventures. All of that good stuff is happening here on my YouTube channel, so if that sounds interesting to you, subscribe to the channel so you will be staying updated throughout the year on all of the new videos that I'm releasing. So I think this lens sits in a pretty interesting spot in terms of the price. I personally paid 460 euros for this lens. It was used, but it still had warranty, and I think that is a very, very good price. Later in the video, I will talk a little bit about some other options, but just to get started, I think for 450 bucks, if you're a little bit patient, you're looking on the second-hand market, I think you could pick it up for almost the same price. So let's talk about the first great point about this lens, and that is honestly the size of the lens. You can already see the lens is pretty small, and especially if you decide to take off, I have like a pretty big filter on there, but if you decide to take the filter and the lens hood off, it becomes tiny, like literally so small. I'll just mount it to my M6 real quick, and there you can see it is so small. It makes the entire setup very, very compact, and it's very lightweight as well. If we are attaching the filter and the hood, we can see it gains a little bit of size, but it's still a very, very small setup. That was something that I personally was really looking forward to. I'm not the biggest fan of very large lenses. Quite on the contrary, I don't really like them. I like my lenses to be small and compact, especially if it's something like a 28 that I want to use for travel, for street photography, for everyday photography. I don't want to have a big chunk of glass on my camera. I mean, a Leica is already not the most light camera in itself, so I thought it's a very good idea to attach a lens to it that is very, very lightweight. Also, something that is pretty cool about this is the fact that the lens comes with the lens hood and the lens cap. So from the get-go, you don't have to buy any accessories for it. The only thing that I ended up buying was a UV protection filter. Also, what's pretty nice is the fact that this is a new lens, or in my case, it was second-hand, but I still had warranty on this lens. So compared to other lenses, especially if you buy vintage glass, you don't really have a warranty or anything like that, unless you buy it from like an authorized seller. But with this lens, I knew that for the next 2 years, no matter what happened, I'm gonna be covered. Another element that drew me to the lens was the fact that it has spherical lens elements. I won't go too deep into that entire topic, but just know that when you have spherical lens elements, you get better sharpness, and especially better sharpness in the corners. So I'm shooting a lot of architecture, like doors, for example, and I really want that corner sharpness. So for me, that was a big plus point. Let's just look at this lens together, the way it looks on my M6. I think it's a beautiful combination, especially in terms of the size and this whole setup. is just very nice to use. Now I think it's a very good time to look at some photographs, look at the sharpness together, and also look a little bit at the depth of field. Was interested in, is this lens going to be able to create any depth of field? Because, you know, f2.8 is not really the best, 28mm is also not really the best for depth of field, but I was pleasantly surprised. I think in some scenarios I was definitely able to create some depth of field. You can create even more depth of field when you go into the close focusing range, which is 0.5 meters. This does not work. I mean, technically it works with the M6, but the rangefinder only goes up until 0.7 meters, which means that you would have to estimate the distance, or you would need a certain distance measuring tool or something like that. That is actually something that I don't like so much about this lens, and I'll get a little bit into later in the video. The fact that it goes until 0.5 meters for us analog shooters is more a disadvantage than an advantage. So let's talk a little bit about the cons of this lens, and in my opinion there's two main cons. First one is the fact that it has some vignetting, especially when you shoot wide open. There is definitely some noticeable vignetting happening. I don't really mind it. I think sometimes it can even be a nice element. When you step down to f4, f5.6, it starts to fade away. If you hate vignetting, you can also just adjust it in Lightroom or Photoshop or whatever, but I just definitely wanted to mention that. Secondly, I also feel like this lens is really sharp and it can create some really crisp sharpness, but when you stop it down too much, even around f8 or f11, I think the sharpness kind of gets lost and it becomes a little bit, I can't even really describe it, like too sharp, but also the sharpness is not really contrasty. I'm not a huge lens expert with all of the details and terminology, but on some photographs I feel like the sharpness wasn't really like tack sharp. It was just something was a little bit off. I can't even like really put my finger on it. The last negative point would be the fact, what I already talked about earlier, that this lens goes down to 0.5 meters close focusing range. What ends up happening sometimes at least is you're looking through the viewfinder, you want to take a close-up. Let's say I want to take a shot of the video camera that I'm filming with right now, and then I would kind of go as close as possible, but since my Leica only allows me to focus up until 0.7 meters, I don't see the difference between 0.7 to 0.5 meters, so sometimes I take a photograph that comes out of focus, or at least the thing that I wanted to be in focus is no longer in focus because I was focusing too close. So for me, I now have like a little reminder in my head where I'm like, okay, I want to take a very close photo. So I'm looking on top of the lens, setting it exactly to 0.7, and then I'm going as close as my rangefinder allows me to go. I know that some Leica lenses, they have this little feature where when you going over 0.7, they have like a little resistance, a little click built into the lens. So you know, okay, now I'm outside of my rangefinder capability and I'm entering close focusing. That is just a minor detail, but definitely something I wanted to mention. And I think that this would be something that Voigtländer could improve if they bring out a new model. Especially for us film shooters, this is kind of a big deal. It can get annoying. At this point, I want to ask you, what is your favorite 28mm Leica lens? I've been eyeing one of these 28mm El-mount aspherical. I think there's two versions. I'm not too familiar with them at the moment because I'm still kind of happy with the Voigtländer. But I'm kind of thinking maybe sometime in the future might want to pick up some modern Leica glass just because it's very compact and small as well. But the price point of the Leica lens has always kind of been so high up there that I didn't feel like picking one up. But if you have any good recommendations, let me know down in the comments below. Otherwise, I kind of want to give a final conclusion and talk about who I think this lens is perfect for. I'll show it to you one more time. I think that this lens is perfect for people who are looking for an affordable, kind of affordable, you know, 650 bucks new is definitely not cheap, but I think it's more affordable than a 2000 euro Leica lens. So people who are looking for a kind of affordable lens that they can use for everyday photography that is very small, pretty sharp, has even the capability to do some close focusing if you have a digital Leica, create a little bit of bokeh at least, and is just a very good all-around lens. Especially if you take the filter and the lens hood off one more time, this lens is almost like a pancake lens, and I think that makes it really special. If you're a fan of lightweight lenses, of having a setup that is very, very small, this lens is also not very prone to flares. So even if you shoot directly into the sunlight, since it's a pretty new lens, the coating is very good, so there won't be like any crazy flares. So I've used this lens just with a protection filter and without the hood. Right now the hood is kind of attached to the filter and I can't get it off, so I can only use the two at the same time. But I think this is a very great lens, especially if you know you don't need that f2, you don't need f1.4. You're fine with this and you like a sharp lens, a small lens, a lens that you can use in everyday situations that keeps the setup very small and lightweight. So if you're one of those people, this lens might be perfect for you. I think that there's some other good options out there. I've heard some really great things about the 28mm Ultron from Voigtländer. There's some different versions. I'm not too familiar with those. I personally just knew I don't need the f2, and I would prefer to make the trade-off between having an extra stop of light and having this very, very compact and lightweight lens. So that's it from my side. I hope you enjoyed this review. I hope I was able to give you some clarity on this lens, to show you some of my favorite photographs so you know what this lens is capable of. And I think it's a very capable lens. Kind of get my insights on what it was like to use this lens. As I said, it's super compact, it's very lightweight, it keeps the setup small, it's perfect for traveling. If you just want that one lens for your Leica, this might be it. So I hope, as I said, this was helpful for you. If it was, like the video, subscribe to the channel. I'm very thankful for each and everybody who's tuning in, and this is my way of giving something back to the film community. If you can't get enough of my work, my website is also linked in the description below. There you can see a lot of my portfolio, kind of in a nice way. Hope you enjoyed this one. Take care everybody, and see you in the next one.